The house stood alone against the mountains, accumulating the same darkness of that night inside. It had been that way for at least 40 years, but my parents found in it a unique novelty. Its walls remained wide and upright, its floors firm, polished, and its doors, well, ready to be opened. From the moment we went in, I was accompanied by a feeling for which I could not find an adequate name. A strange sensation had taken hold of me. Had I been there before? The whole house was beautiful, no doubt. It was old but uniquely beautiful. Speechless, I felt in my place. I visited each of the rooms and chose the 8th, the gloomiest and most spacious one. I think it all started a few weeks after I found the book in a forgotten library kept by the house. Its ebony black cover and its title from the ancient Greek carved as a gray embossing caught my attention. Charon, Sharon, it said. I brought the book with me to my room without anyone noticing. Since then, every morning it just appeared on my bed. On one of its pages, the number 0 was repeated as a pattern spread over several pages. Intrigued, I wanted to know where it would end and what it meant. Then I discovered an image that I didn't understand at all. A vertical tunnel drawn on a millimeter background. On one side, a formula, a small human figure, and the word Knox written in pencil. I detailed the pages one by one, went over the image, and ended up giving up until I reached its end paper. A small round envelope was glued to it. I peeled it off and opened it. It was the coin. I didn't understand what such a thing was doing there, and I fell asleep thinking about it. That night the room had come alive. It moved like an animal. It breathed, it creaked. I had never felt such a sensation before. I got up from my bed, startled. I wanted to turn on the lights and see what was happening. When I tried, I realized that it was myself in my detached and transparent condition, and that my flesh and blood body was on the bed. I tried to return to my body, but when I was about to do it, another entity, grayish and ethereal like me, emerged from the wall. This being grabbed me by one end so roughly that I began to shake. Its hand was reaching out toward me with a grin pinned from ear to ear. Somehow I understood that it was inviting me to go with him, with her. I couldn't tell. As they continued to try to take me away, I held the coin in my hand and squeezed it with all my power. Until that day, I thought I was alone flying in that space created without consciousness. I don't know how long the struggle lasted, but the other managed to get me behind the wall, where everything, absolutely everything, was dark and outlined with millimetric stripes in green. We floated inside and above the fire. We crossed huge stones that floated like us. Then I saw huge trees, and their leaves were smiles hanging from the stems. There were toothless smiles, open and closed smiles, cynical mouths that screamed as I floated above them. Then a bull welcomed me, and a dog threw me upside down onto Saturn, whose rings became an infinite catwalk with which I passed through Uranus, then Neptune, and then, after an unbearable silence, in with its hand pressed against mine, the other whispered, "Welcome to Pluto." I looked down and saw a river of dirty water, marked with a sign that read "Styx." Incomplete bodies, arms, heads, trunks, fingers falling floated through it into a large mouth-shaped cavern, a mouth that roared. I looked in astonishment and saw the figure of a tall man driving a boat, stepping over the dismembered bodies. He made a gesture with his fingers pointing at me. I tried to let go of my companion, whom I was finally able to determine was myself. I had come from Pluto to restore the balance of the chaos that fed on those bodies, traveling men and women who had dared to cross the tunnel passage unprepared. I understood that I had to deliver the coin to pay for the trip, and that Sharon, the name of that book, was none other than this man on the ship who now reclaimed his payment. My name is Knox. I am as old as the universe. But all that I have told happened exactly in this space, in 2001, when reality bended and this became my home. Today I prepare travelers who want a flight to Pluto, carrying my coin so they can return home in time too.
Thank you for listening to this Ochenta Cuentos episode. The story was written and performed by Andrea Garcia. The English version of the story was voiced by Mila Rodriguez Caro, and the music and sound design of the piece was made by Jeremias Juarez. Ochenta Cuentos is hosted and produced by Maru Lombardo and Jeremias Juarez. To hear more exciting stories like this one, check out Ochenta Cuentos. It's a show presented in an imaginary sound theater where every listener can experience company in a unique way. From tales about a woman who travels back to a town she had left behind, a man that bikes across the country to see a friend, and a story about finding a connection halfway across the world through a book. You can hear more over at ochentastudio.com/ochenta-cuentos. Next week, we'll be back with another Ochenta Stories episode. If you like what you heard, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts in whatever language you choose. Follow us over at Ochenta Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram for updates. You can find transcripts and learn more about the project over at ochentastudio.com/ochentastories.